in an anime series could the death of a giant, yellow, smiling octopus wearing a graduation robe make me cry? I swear, throughout this entire episode, I thought that someone had taken a bowl of chopped onions and put them directly under my face. Because this episode really hit me right in the feels. It was a heat-seeker missile to my heart. And honestly, this week's episode was absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time. Because in this week's episode of Assassination Classroom, the students of Class 3E officially kill Koro Sensei. The story in this episode is really simple. It's the execution which is handled so well. After the huge battle with the Reaper and with Shiro, Koro Sensei is completely exhausted, and because of this, he has no more strength left, and his students are able to dogpile on top of him, and this allows Nagisa to perform the coup de grace. One knife to the heart. However, before Koro Sensei is finished off, there is one part of the episode which absolutely brought me to my knees, and that was Koro Sensei's final roll call, where he goes around one at a time to each of the individual students, calls their name, and they all respond. And this scene alone tore me to pieces. It also shows how vastly different the individual personalities and quirks of all these characters. It's just gorgeous, and it's so amazingly perfect for this episode, which could have easily been the finale of the series, but believe it or not, there is going to be one more. After the death of Koro Sensei, I have a feeling we're going to be seeing what the futures of these characters are like, and they're going to have a bright future, thanks, of course, to Koro Sensei. This episode made it painfully clear that not only was he an amazing teacher, but he happens to be an amazing self-help coach, because he has managed to change the lives of all of these students by taking their greatest weaknesses and turning them into their greatest strengths. And it was really hard to watch that roll call scene because they do a great job of focusing on each student one at a time. It also allows the viewer to reflect on the entire series, reminding you of all of your favorite moments from the series. Some characters tried to act all cool, calm, and collected. Others were immediately breaking down. Some of them were frankly hard to watch. Watching Karma hold back his tears was just heartbreaking. It destroyed me. The one that got me the most, however, of course, is Nagisa, the main character of the series. And yes, it is a little stereotypical that he is the one who actually performs the coup de grace on Koro Sensei. He's the one who delivers the final slash to his heart. But the way that this goes down is just so amazing, because initially he's trying to be very serious about all of that. Even when his name is called, he simply just stoically says here. But when the time comes for him to kill Koro Sensei, he does it immediately with a lot of anger in his heart when Koro Sensei suddenly stops him and he tells Nagisa not to kill him that way, but to do it with compassion, the way that he's wanted since the very beginning. And that's when Nagisa finishes off Koro Sensei with a smile, and Koro Sensei, as he dies, explodes into these yellow lights which go up into the sky towards the moon, and that's when all of the students just break down, and frankly, it's hard to watch. I was right there with them the entire time. It's not too often that I do a reaction to anime reviews because I don't want to have to worry about all of the copyright and anything, but if I'd have done an actual reaction to this episode, you can bet your ass that I was probably blubbering the entire time. As a grown man watching an anime series, that really surprised me. It really showed that this series has a surprising amount of emotional depth behind it. And it really made me realize that I care about Koro Sensei as well as these students. Hell, even Karasuma started to get really sniffly in this episode. That's right, even the stoic and hardcore Karasuma was affected by the death of Koro Sensei. And you know, even if they'd have gone through with like a huge, super elaborate plan or some sort of trap to take out Koro Sensei, I don't think it would have been as satisfying as this scene right here. It really hit at home, and it was the perfect way to end Koro Sensei's story arc. He helped out the students, his time was up, and they graduated early. I'm already getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Assassination Classroom? Just such a sad but beautiful episode of the series. It was inevitable that Koro Sensei was going to be killed. However, I was not prepared for it in this episode. I always sort of thought that Koro Sensei was either going to die in the final episode, or they were going to find a way to keep him alive. Unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. The biggest strength of this episode definitely comes from all of the emotion and the atmosphere, especially from the students themselves, who all display just so many varying emotions that you just can't help but want to be right there with them. And let's not forget about that amazing music which popped up at the end of the episode, which only just amplified the manly tears in this week's episode. My friends, this was simply a beautiful episode of Assassination Classroom, and despite the fact that there weren't any crazy or wacky action scenes, this was probably one of the best episodes of the entire series, and an episode that we were going to have to get eventually, but it's still just as shocking, and it still manages to hit you at your emotional core. I think this is an episode that's going to affect people in a lot of different ways, and I cannot wait to see the reactions from multiple people from this episode, because if it made me cry, we're probably going to see some other people who are going to be crying like little babies, because this episode right here just had me biting my lip the entire time, just trying to say, why am I even getting upset about this? I shouldn't care this much. But the fact of the matter is, I do care. I do care about Koro Sensei. I love the fact that he was able to be unlike any other, main anime character that I've ever seen before. The fact that he went out of his way to teach these students and better their lives in the last year of his life is frankly amazing. It's beautiful, and it's done with a lot of great gusto. This was a really slow episode, but it's the type of episode that was done so well simply just because of the atmosphere, the amazing voice acting, and all of the emotion and the beautiful message behind all of it. And really, that's all I have to say about this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. It was gorgeous, it was amazing, and it was the end of Koro Sensei. And I'm always going to remember this episode, and this episode right here was kind of like the final stamp of this series always going to be fresh in my mind. I'm always going to come back to this episode right here and be like, this is the reason why I like this show, is this emotional moment right here. It's not for the action scenes, it's not for all the crazy Koro Sensei antics, it's for the message. So take this episode as a springboard to better yourself, to better your life, to be better than you were the day before. This is an inspirational, beautiful anime series, which just so happens to have a lot of ridiculous action and comedy. And honestly, that's one of the greatest things about anime in general. They can take the concept of animation and throw just about any genre in it. And this one right here was a mixture of a lot of different ones, and it could have really gotten off course. Instead, it managed to stay on the tracks the entire time and hit us right here. So check it out, Ass Class fans. You are definitely going to love this episode, and this is mandatory viewing for anyone who has been following the series, and even if you read the manga version, which, as far as I'm concerned, I have no idea if it's any different from that, but still check out this episode right here. If it affected me this much, chances are it's going to at least get a little bit of an emotional response from you. This was a great episode right here, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Koro Sensei, rest in peace. Thank you for everything. Before you guys leave today, make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Assassination Classroom. Did this episode affect you as much as it affected me? Did you cry? Did you not cry? Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? What did you think of all of the adventures of Koro Sensei? Did you reflect on the rest of the series? And what do you want to see from the finale of Assassination Classroom? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. Make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and make sure to leave me a comment. Make sure to also check out all the cool links we got floating around in the description box below. One of them might actually be our weekly podcast series, The Powerful Nerdcast. It's pretty freaking awesome. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!